sections so that it's easy for you guys to click and like take your time grading your test. So this is section B of paper 1. So we're doing number 1. It's the only problem in section B, but it's very long. So in part A, they ask you to find f prime of 1. So the first thing we have to do is actually find f prime. So this should be 2x plus, already made a mistake, minus 1. Should be my f prime of 1 is what we wanted. We should have 2 times 1 minus 1, which is just 1. Okay, so that's what you should have gotten for f prime of 1. And this really does not deserve 3 marks. I need to reallocate those marks for next year because that's just ridiculous. So we'll give 2 for the answer, 1 for the method. Okay. Okay, so that's part A. Then in part B, it asks you to find the equation of L in the form of y equals ax plus b. A is m, b is the normal thing. Okay, so we know that our mt is 1. We've just found that. So our mn, because it's asking us to find L, which is defined as the normal to the graph, is going to be -1. So you're going to get 1 point for like recognizing that and finding that the normal slope is -1. And then our point that we're given is P is 1, 0. So I can sub in 0, -1, and 1 into that formula and then just solve for B. So I should get that B is equal to 1. So my answer should be y equals -x plus 1. So you would get plus 1 for that answer. There were 3 total marks and plus 1 for this method finding my B value. So that's the 3 marks for part B. Then in part C, it asks you to find the x coordinate of Q. It says the line L intersects F at another point Q. So we're going to take my line, my equation of my line that I found in B, -x plus 1, and I'm going to set it equal to my original function, which is x squared minus x. And my negative x's on either side cancel out. So I end up that x squared is just equal to 1. So I can take the square root of both sides, and I should get that x is equal to plus or minus 1. Either of those squared will give you 1. And so you know that our original point P was positive 1, 0. So we have to choose -1 because we have already identified the first one. So x equals -1 was your correct answer because already had 1 or x equals 1 from P. Okay. So for C, it was a total of 4 marks. You get plus 1 for this method, setting it up. Plus 1, you could have also factored this, like subtracted 1 from both sides and then factored, that would be fine. Any method really, plus 1 for the method, plus 1 for that answer, getting plus or minus 1, and then plus 1 for actually choosing the -1. So that should be all 4 of your marks for part C. Part D is a little bit more extensive. D asks you to find the area of the region enclosed by the graph of F and the line L. So conveniently, we already have our limits of integration because they're the intersection points that we just found. So we know that our lower limit is going to be -1 and our upper limit is going to be +1. Now the line is above the parabola in this case. So see how this line is above the parabola? So that's the enclosed region. Means that I'm going to take my line, my equation of my line, which was -x plus 1, and I'm going to subtract off my parabola, which is x squared minus x. This is not calculator active, so you actually have to do all this out. So when we do this, I should end up with -x squared These guys are going to cancel because I have a double negative on this x, and that double negative is going to give me a positive x, which cancels out with that negative x. And then plus 1. When I actually integrate negative x squared plus 1, I should get negative 1/3 x cubed plus x from negative 1 to 1. Okay. Then I have, I need to actually sub in my stuff. So I'm going to have negative 1/3 plus 1 as my first guy. Then I'm subtracting. This is going to end up being positive 1/3 minus 1. Oh, sorry, my eye itches really badly. Okay. Okay, so then when we simplify this, 1 minus 1/3, which is really what this is right here, should be positive 2/3. This right here, this is the same difference, except the thing that's negative is the 1, which is bigger. So this should be minus negative 2/3. That double negative there gives me a plus sign, so I get 2/3 plus 2/3, which is 4/3. Okay, and that should be in units squared. That should be your final answer. So let's do the marks for part D. You get, part D was 6 marks. So you get plus 1 for your bounds. Then you get plus 1 for integrating, specifically doing the upper minus lower format. If you integrated, but for some reason didn't do the upper function minus lower function, you don't get that point. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. You get plus 2 for having this correct integral and integrating right. Okay, plus 1 for this method of subbing in values, and plus 1 for this answer. So this gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is the total number of marks for part D, and the total for paper, for number 1, section B, paper 1, was 16 marks in total. Okay. Okay, so that's that one. Let's do the next one.